Hi there, I'm Claire Chancellor from Be Your Purpose Coaching. I want to say a really, really big welcome for being here and saying yes to doing NLP on your way to becoming an NLP practitioner, a life coach, and an Ericksonian hypnotherapist. Life will never ever be the same after you've learned NLP. It is absolutely life-changing. I absolutely can't wait to see you in the training. But before we get into the fun stuff, there are some things that I want to cover with you just to help you with knowing how to get the best out of our training together. Of course, I've got my slideshow with all of the pictures. So let's get started. Now, as you know, you've signed up from NLP. You already have a brief idea on what NLP is. But basically, NLP is the study of excellence. It provides you with the tools and techniques to understand your potential so you can easily create that fulfilling, successful life that you crave. I do believe that NLP is the ultimate manifesting modality, and it really does give you that pathway to self-mastery. My sense of NLP is that when you do the inner work, your energy field completely changes and it causes that ripple effect so that you can show up differently in your relationships, with your health, your business, your wealth. And so when you start to manifest and attract in better outcomes, it's just like saying, how can this get any better? And so the tools of NLP really do give you that yumminess. NLP, which we're going to go into a lot more detail about this, but NLP is the neuro, the way that you're thinking, the linguistics, the words that you're choosing to communicate, and the programming that you have at an unconscious level that create the outcomes that you've got. Of course, we're going to go into a lot more detail about that. But first, I need to cover some housekeeping before we jump into the training, just so that we've both got that agreement on what to expect from our time together. Now, this is obviously a video, so I can't tell you specifically what time you start, because some trainings I start in the evenings and some trainings I do full days. So that would have been emailed to you, would have been pretty clear on what time we start. And I do have a really big respect well, let's just put it like that. I really respect those who arrive on time. And so therefore I start on time. It's just this win-win sense of rapport right from the beginning. In the NLP time together, bring your manual, bring a pen and paper, even bring your snacks or your meals. I have no problem with you eating in class. Keep the energy up, whatever you've got to do. To get the most out of the training, I ask that you fully participate, your camera turned on so that we can easily connect. Put your hand up and ask plenty of questions. The more questions that you ask, the more feedback I get from you about how much more you want, and therefore the more I give. I would say as we go through the processes, trust the first thing that comes to mind, because your intuition and the pre-training, everything that's been put into this moment, it's already there. The seeds have been planted. It's about letting them come to the surface. In our trainings together, I would say be prepared to let go of your limitations, like goodbye, and hello to the possibilities of what you want to create. And of course, in our NLP training, I would say begin the assessment from the moment that you've got it. Don't wait for me to provide the answers. It's sort of like the information is already there in the NLP menu. I would say talk to your fellow students, get the answers, start it today. There it is, there's a whole slide for it. So you will see the NLP assessment, the practitioner assessment in the NLP menu. I would have also emailed it to you. So it's made up of 48 questions. It's due about the second last week of our training together, or the second last day of our training together. And as I've already said, feel free to get together with your fellow students to answer the questions, and you will find the answers in amongst the manual and everything else that I give you. The practitioner assessment will look like this, and it's all digitally formed so that you can type it and save it and come back to it. I do know that other students have actually printed it right from day one, and they pencil in some notes on what page they can find the answer. And so that when it comes time to submitting it, either scanning and emailing it to me or the digital way, that it's just there, it's done. Now, anytime you see on the slides that purple little hint there, that purple hint is saying take a photo of the slide or write it down, because this is the answer to one of the assessment questions. I haven't given you all of the hints for the assessment. Some of those you'll have to stay tuned into the training to find it, but I've made it as easy as I can. And just as an example there, that particular answer is what the NLPAA are looking for. What is NLP? And again, feel free to take photos of the slides to help you with your assessment. Now, the 3 certificates, they're all yours at the end of the training. All you've got to do is fully participate and give all of the activities go, complete the assessment, laugh at all my jokes, attend all of the training nights or the training days, and yeah, then the 3 certificates are all yours. The NLPAA require you to attend at least 60 hours in-person training, again with the camera on, so I know that the attendance is complete. If you do miss a class, you're going to have to make up for that for the time that you've missed. And again, as I've said, due to NLPAA requirements, the video needs to be on. Now, this is when people ask, hey, but what if I miss a class? And yes, life is going to happen. If you miss a class, you need to watch the replay. That's the beauty of Zoom. It's already there for you. You need to make time with a fellow student to do the process that you missed in that time and send me a video of you completing that task. If you miss 2 or more classes, then you have the choice to continue the training, but you will not receive the certificates as the requirement of the hours hasn't been fulfilled in time, in person with me. So alternatively, you can actually stop the training then and there and pick it up, and the Be Your Purpose training give you the option to go into the next class. So yeah, if you miss a class, then then you can continue, but you won't get the certificates. If you miss too many classes, then it's like, okay, we have to start again at the beginning of the next training. Bring up the energy. So it's absolutely okay to get it wrong. It's okay to be silly, and it's okay to have fun in this space. We're exploring some vulnerabilities of limitations, and so that's why I like to create a safe space to be able to explore what is going on so that you get the most out of our time together. Of course, I could not leave that crooked. There's some coaching that needs to be done on my perfectionism, but yeah, we all get a bit silly sometimes. So within the NLP training, let the pieces of the puzzle come together over time. In previous trainings, I've had students where they like to, like they like it paint by numbers, this color here, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. They like it step by step by step. And in fact, no NLP coaching client is ever going to be a paint by numbers. Each client that you experience, each conversation you have is that abstract painting, a unique canvas. So the training is based on that I'll give you a tool, a piece of the puzzle, and then I'll give you another tool, another piece of the puzzle. And then come the end of the training, it's like, I could do this, or I could do this, I'm a visual artist, so like I can paint with the blues or the greens or the yellows. You will intuitively know what your client needs. So as I've said, let the pieces of the puzzle come together over time. Now, if you have any questions, any queries, please use our Facebook group so that everybody can benefit from, any questions you have, any resources that you found, links to YouTubes or any books or anything there that continues on the training conversations that we've had. Any aha moments, please use the Facebook page for that because it's fun to get into that conversation, right? That like-minded conversation. Now, another one, please keep in mind that you have invested in NLP training, not personalized coaching. So yes, let me know if you're overwhelmed by any of the NLP training, and I can definitely help you before class or in the breaks. But if you do have a private question on our NLP journey together, you're welcome to ask me, but it is likely that I will direct you to a one-on-one coaching option to answer your questions in a paid breakthrough session. I do like to set up my NLP practitioner training so that we're amongst like-minded professionals and business owners who share that drive and determination to create their goals. And so throughout this training, you have the opportunity to utilize it just like a group coaching kind of space where I take you through all of the NLP processes, and then you have the option to resolve some of the limitations that have been holding you back. If we're doing a belief change, work on the business stuff. If we're working on parts integration, work on your business stuff. Use this space to really accelerate your business growth and you're forging your way forward. In previous groups, like early on, I had a bit of a mishmash of people where some people were working on pregnancy and some people were working on business and then some people were working on, I have no idea what. I've made sure that the people in this group are like-minded with similar goals. And in fact, I would have said no to some people applying if they weren't the right fit for this training. This training is for empaths, people who understand the spiritual healing gifts, wellness professionals. That's the lane that I like to play in. And when you bring in those high vibe healers, like the energy just, it's a lot of fun. So as I stated there at the bottom of that slide, please keep in mind as a general rule in 2024 that the business coaching will cost you anywhere between 12 and 40 grand a year. And with the NLP practitioner qualification or certification, you can make that kind of money too. So as this particular training is in place, it is to give you the opportunity to learn NLP. Please lean into the support of the group because this is full of phenomenal healers. You don't need to come to me. If you've got a Reiki master in your group and you want healing on the weekends, or a kinesiologist, or I have no idea, breath work, theatre healing, lean into their wisdom and session swap or however you want to work it. Like, this is the fun of coming together in a space like this. As you can tell, I absolutely love, love, love training wellness professionals. And it's absolutely fun how quickly life can change with this manifesting modality. Truth is that we're manifesting all the time. And if we've got a program of those rubbish limitations, they're the ones that are operating the system right now. And so with NLP, we can put a stop to that and bring in the strategies of success. So that's why I call it the ultimate manifesting modality, because if you're projecting out that sense of abundance, the value, the certainty, you will attract that back. It is my job as the trainer to deliver the NLP practitioner in such a way that your unconscious mind is just going to absorb it. So that whether it's the week after we finish or 2 or 3 months after we finish, it will be integrated. It will be part of your knowing. And so you'll be surprised how much you actually retain by the end of this. Okay, so let's put the pieces of the puzzle together. We will do 60 hours together, plus the 20 hours of pre-training. As I've already stated, I would suggest that you come together, share the coaching concepts, practice, practice, practice. It's what is it, like 10,000 hours to become a master, just like a rock star. Yeah, get into it, have fun right from day one. Now, of course, we're on a video. This is where I would ask the group, what's your name? How do you intend on using NLP? How did you find a pre-training? And I would have sent you out a link to fill out your goals. So the goals are quite important in my training because I will refer back to them throughout our time together to make sure that you are taking steps to hold yourself accountable and to create that goal. The goal is not actually the outcome. The goal is to do the thing. And, it's that journey going on a holiday. It's the doing of the holiday that's the memory and the fun and the goal. Okay, so I drop into a little bit of a vulnerability here. My story with NLP. Wow. Okay, so all it took for me was one really big, powerful decision to turn things around and set non-negotiable goals, however many years ago it was, because my daughter's future absolutely depended on it. If you know me well, you know that I'm an open book and I'm quite happy to share this stuff. In a nutshell, though, I was absolutely stuck in domestic violence. I was in a relationship where, when the police found out about it, they had said it was one of the most horrendous cases of domestic violence they had seen. And in fact, a year after, they were called, I got in touch with some of those police people that needed counselling from what they had witnessed. So it was pretty bad. It was me and my four daughters went into hiding and we relied on food banks. We were homeless for a bit there, living in a caravan. And it was like, it was time to draw a line in the sand and like enough of being at effect of being in that victim energy. NLP was the thing that completely turned it around, and it turned it around really, really fast. Now, while I was in that relationship, I wasn't allowed to work, but when he was at work, I would study. I would study Reiki, I would study holistic counseling, theatre healing. There's a list. There's a list. And so bit by bit, I would build up my self-esteem until at such point I learned NLP, and it just made such an impact. I was so hungry to know everything that NLP could do, and to be able to, again, get rid of those rubbish limitations, to be able to create all sorts of different possibilities. And it was from that decision where I now own my own home and, bought 2 cars with cash, in my beautiful relationship with David, or marriage, been to Hawaii, got our little dog Richie and a couple of other cowies, daughters attending private school and all sorts of things. So things turned around once I got out of my own way. And so with the coaching, from everything that I had learnt, experienced, mastered, was then taking it out into the real world and helping other people achieve the success that they wanted. So yeah, it was easy, right? Once I had done it, I could teach others how to manifest in brand new cars, get a wait list of clients, own multiple business locations, dream homes, my clients make, $1 million from working with me, coaches who charge $20,000 for a 3-month package, investment portfolios, all of that fun stuff. And truth is that some of some of my clients have come from working at the $2 shop, and working with them, they've been able to become quite affluent, well-known coaches around Australia, and have been also able to coach their partners, their friends, so on and so forth. So that is the power of NLP. If I believe I can create it, let me just handball that to you so it is possible for you too. So with these clients, what did we work through? How did it work? Well, I consistently coached them. They consistently showed up for about 6+ months. And no matter how uncomfortable, whatever we were working through, it was like, yeah, it is more uncomfortable to hold on to the limitations than it is to it's more uncomfortable to hold on to the limitations than it is to actually go through it and shift and change. And so with that agreement, we were able to work through their debt, loneliness, health problems, childhood trauma, lack of sleep, all of you name it, we worked through it. And that's the thing with manifesting, that's the thing with life. Once you set the goal to have that yummy, good thing that you want, then life is going to bring up all of the problems, the fears, the uncertainties on why you haven't already created it. And so that's where NLP comes in. And of course, what they gained was thriving businesses, happy, healthy relationships, holidays, houses. We pulled out the weeds in the session, like we pulled out the weeds, we cleared the limiting beliefs so that outside of the session, they could plant the seeds to create the life that they wanted. So a lot of the work was done in the session, but most of the work was done outside of the session. And so, again, my experience of NLP, what did I do to build up the skill set that I have? Well, the minute that I was taught NLP, I was all in, as I said. So I found anybody anybody I could practice on every single day for at least the first couple of years. And whether I was talking to my daughter's school teacher or at the checkout or working with a friend, on my couch while I'm putting them in trance, I was using NLP every single day. I befriended mentors who would refer me their most difficult clients. And I actually delighted in working with some of the most complicated cases that others were impossible. So this is where, in the past at least, I would delight in working with difficult cases to build up my skill set. So it was a win-win for both of us. I did create free NLP practice groups with fellow students. I did what I could to put myself out of my comfort zone to learn from the best in the industry. I also married an NLP trainer, so we could talk NLP all day, all night. We call it blue car conversation, go for a drive, do NLP on each other. And at this time, at least when this is recording, he will soon be married to an NLP trainer. So that's my goal at the minute, the master trainer, sorry. And I still actually listen to an hour of NLP content every day. So yeah, I'm healthfully obsessed. A few pictures from my past there where I've worked with some of the best mediums in the world, trained with some of the most amazing profilers and NLP trainers, so on and so forth. So yeah, created retreats, created training groups, been on stage, all of the fun things, right? And anybody there that's saying like, well, Claire, I want to be a coach, but I'm sort of don't know how to put myself out there. To be honest with you, I didn't have a website or Instagram until 2020, and yet I still had a 9-month wait list. So you don't have to use social media to get clients. There are definitely other ways. What I do want to point out to you is that once my home was paid off, the cars are paid, the cars were, well, they were paid off, they were paid off with cash. I did decide to take a break. My husband had had a heart attack, mum got cancer, my daughters needed me. There was a lot going on, and it was a good time to sit down and reflect on the business, so to speak, of only actually saying yes to the people that I wanted to work with. So it was a bit of a interesting time to navigate. Rarely you actually see me post about client success due to my high value on confidentiality. Maybe I need some coaching on that, who knows? But what I know to be true is that if I can turn my life around, you can too. There's a cheeky photo of me and David flying off to Hawaii without my eyebrows. And so this is what NLP has done for my life. I'm curious for you about what do you want NLP to do for you? And again, my question comes back to, are your goals actually too small? I would have asked you to fill out your goals. You are more than welcome to resubmit them if you want to change them. Because the truth is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're 100% right. And I tell you what, from learning mediumship, if somebody comes at me and they're skeptical, I'm not going to waste an ounce of energy on them trying to prove that mediumship works. I only want to work with those who believe it, know it, and want to take the experience even beyond. So yeah, it's a lot of fun when you move into the question of what's possible. Ooh, all right, what is NLP? NLP was created in the 1970s by computer programmer Richard Bandler and the professor of linguistics John Grinder, how Australian are you? As well as a host of other developers. So initially what they did was they studied in the therapy field and worked out what therapists did to consistently get results. That's why NLP is created from the study of excellence. NLP looks at how people create limitations within themselves. So the pictures that they make, the things that they say to themselves, and any of the other unconscious programming. So NLP can shift those barriers so that the client can change their perception about themselves, the world around them, and move on and feel empowered. So let's drill right down into it. So NLP, neuro, the mind, the nervous system, and it's through the mind that we experience this reality. So through our five senses, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory, so even the taste and smell. So this comes back to that question that if a tree falls down in a forest, does it actually make a sound? And no, it doesn't, because unless somebody's there with the machinery, the technology to record the sound doesn't exist until our senses say it does. And so this is where NLP comes into place, is like, how are you experiencing this reality? Linguistics comes into the language and other non-verbal communication systems that our neural representations are coded, ordered, and given meaning. So while we had visual of like what you're seeing, this is like the pictures that you're making in your mind, the sounds that you're hearing and holding onto, the feelings that you're allowing in your body, the taste, the smells, and even the self-talk. Like, what are you saying to yourself? If you think about a limitation that you've got about the idea of doing public speaking, and you're like, oh, the picture of like how dreadful that would look and blah, 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 and all of that, that's where NLP can like squash that picture, change it, move it, and bring in an empowered picture. So it's like, yep, this is easy. And of course, the programming, the P, the ability to discover and utilize the programs that you're running in a predictable way. So the way we think, communicate, and behave to get the outcome we want. So what programs are running, is it dinner time? And do you say to yourself, like, what am I going to make for dinner? That's a program versus, oh, it's dinner time. Like, yay, what can we do to nourish my body? How can we bring the family together? Different program. So what is NLP? What programs are you running? Are they getting you what you want in life? NLP was created in the 1970s when computers were actually modern, and it was fancy to use the word programs. So if NLP was actually created today, it would be called NLA for apps. So it's that fast and effective way to use the power of your mind. With the tools of NLP, we can shift those limiting beliefs and we can bring in the fast, effective apps, like bring them up so that you can create that swift transformation. Now, this is just a hint there, if we were doing this in class, that we're up to page 17. So these are the other people that contributed to NLP and NLP's history. There's more people, but these are the top ones that we will be talking about in class. Virginia Satir, Robert Dilts, Gregory Bateson, Fritz Perls, and Milton Erickson. Now, as I said before, Richard and John looked at why are they so effective? So Virginia Satir, as a family therapist, why is she so effective? Like, what is she doing to get consistent results? What is that common pattern? Like, how is she doing rapport? How is she guiding her clients through her therapy? Richard and John looked at how they're breaking down language, and they also looked at what the therapist was not doing, which I think is quite impressive to rule out what doesn't work, to know what does work. NLP in itself, being that study of excellence, it does come back to looking at cases where you may have a fear of flying, let's say. The therapy model may say, well, okay, let's teach you to breathe, let's teach you how to overcome your anxiety, or let's teach you how to manage your anxiety. But through Richard and John's studies, they looked at how people solved their fear of flying. So with NLP, instead of going through managing somebody's anxiety, we can actually solve it, resolve it, and dissolve it, and it's all gone. And of course, knowing that Richard and John looked at the therapist and what worked, then of course NLP is about modeling. They looked at the best in the industry, took out what worked, and made NLP. So my encouragement to you is to find someone at the top of their profession, discover their thoughts, their beliefs, and basically duplicate what worked. It'll save you decades. Here's some quirky pictures of Richard when he was much younger. And this is Richard here working with Andy. You can find these videos on YouTube where this character, Andy, is actually schizophrenic. So he heard voices, and those voices were consuming his world and making his world quite small. Instead of doing therapy traditional therapy work with Andy, Richard was able to acknowledge the voices and discover what they were doing and be able to shift those so that he had more choice and therefore more freedom in what he was creating in his reality. So a bit of a fun story, and I have transcribed this off one of Richard's YouTubes. When Richard Bandler was in his 20s, he would visit Napa State Hospital with Virginia Satir, while she would go down one corridor and work with the staff and at the hospital. Richard would, be a bit inquisitive and go down a different corridor. He said from that experience, he recognized that those hospitals back then for mental health were absolutely horrible. The psychiatrists would give people drugs so that they would be easier to manage. They would give them electric shock therapy if they misbehaved. Richard described that psychiatric hospital to be one of the most disgusting places on earth, horrible smelling, worse conditions in prison. And so he worked with the people who had been forgotten by society with the intention of helping them create that thriving sense of empowerment. One of Richard's more mischievous stories is that he came across a man who was not so much in touch with reality and who claimed to be Jesus. This particular man was trapped in his hospital room and trapped in that false identity. Richard said that he had a secondary gain to hold on to that false reality to escape the stress of the outside world. And so every day, this patient would dress up as Jesus, he'd tear up his sheets, sitting there reciting scriptures and blessing other patients. Richard questioned that false reality and played within that man's model of the world. He said he waited till Good Friday, came into Jesus' room with 2 huge pieces of timber and the nails and said, "I hear that you're a carpenter." Of course, Richard does the voices so much better than me. And he asked Jesus' character to hold out his hands and to measure, and marked 2 red marks and measured his height on the timber. So as Richard continued to work, the Jesus guy completely started to freak out, asking Richard, like, "Who are you?" Richard saying, "I'm nobody. I'm just a carpenter like yourself. It seems like it's Good Friday. Good for me, not so good for you." And Richard, he does the voice and everything. Richard said he could see the guy's face going, "Oh, shit." The Jesus guy asked, "You're not expecting me to lie on that?" And Richard replied, "Not me personally." And then he had 2 big men dressed as Romans come into the room asking, like, "Are you almost done?" So suddenly the guy started to explain that he wasn't Jesus, and Richard said, "That's right, you were known by many names." But basically, the guy started to claim, "I'm not Jesus, I'm just schizophrenic." It's just a delusion. And so within that, you may be saying to yourself, "Oh my gosh, what have I gotten into with NLP?" But this is just that humorous story to demonstrate that people do take their problems too seriously. When you're able to find the fun in it, when you're able to adapt into somebody's model of the world, you can have a very different conversation rather than convincing them of what reality is according to you. And so throughout NLP, I would encourage you to, yes, still have that respect for that person, their model of the world, but also don't get into the whole of their problems with them. I would always, throughout my coaching, I always make sure that I'm on the outside with the ladder, come and join me, not the other way around. And for a bit of fun, the day that I got my certificates for becoming a trainer, I celebrated by going out and buying Richard Bandler Chancellor. So my Blenheim Cavvy that I've always wanted, here he is. He's just as mischievous as the real man, Richard himself. So it's a bit of a joke in my house that we live with Richard Bandler Chancellor. The vet doesn't know who Richard Bandler is, but I always have a bit of fun with it. If you are curious about Richard's history, this is fantastic. This video on YouTube made by one of Richard's good friends, Joe Vitelli. Oh, wrong, Joe. Oh, the name's just gone. check it out on YouTube. It's really an eye-opener. This is a picture or a video. There's plenty of YouTubes on Richard. That's what he looks like in this day and age. So a lot different compared to his younger photos. All right, so what is NLP? We're still in that phase. So I want you to think about what we've spoken about. There's people have their beliefs. Those beliefs turn into your words. Those words turn into your actions. Those actions turn into your habits. Those habits turn into your values, and your values turn into your destiny. So whatever belief that you've got operating right now, whether you can, whether you can't, if you've got the belief that you can, that's coming out in your communication. You've got the sense that, yeah, I'm taking action on that. It becomes habitual to create that empowering way of living, which then becomes important to you to be able to say yes to the good things. And therefore, I'm saying no to the things that don't work for me. And therefore, that creates your outcome of living that fulfilled life. NLP tends to work at that belief level, but some coaches will work at the other levels depending on their market. Who benefits from NLP? Basically, NLP is universally applicable. Knowing that NLP is about how we communicate to ourselves and others, it can be used by absolutely everybody. And that's why NLP is taught to athletes, to school teachers, to presenters, to the legal team, to real estate agents, to spiritual healers. The communication that you have of listening out for what people are saying and not saying, listening out for what motivates them, listening out for what they've deleted out of their reality, all of this skill set helps you help the other person get the results. You do not need to understand what it means to be a real estate agent, but you can work with a real estate agent in the sense of listening out for their limiting beliefs, how they hold themselves back. NLP will give you the tools to be able to undo that. So, previous clients, previous students, what have they done? How did they approach NLP? How did they get the most out of it? Well, there was a common pattern between the NLP students who created financial and time freedom with the use of NLP and those who were quite casual about it. Successful students didn't just come to learn NLP, they used it to form a deeper connection with themselves. So they listened to the content, they took notice of how their body was responding, what their mind was doing when they took on board the information, and they explored what was possible from what I was teaching them in NLP. So NLP does provide you with an opportunity to master the truth of who you are. So as we go through this content, I would encourage you to question your thoughts, question your reactions, your responses, what you believe, what you don't believe. I would check in with yourself on what you're connecting to, what are you disconnecting from, and looking at why. Why might that be? That would be my encouragement for you to take on board the NLP content and what works for you and why. So nearly wrapping this up, the last little bit here is, what is coaching? Because coaching is actually different to being an NLP practitioner. An NLP practitioner gives you the tools to do NLP. The life coaching certificate gives you an avenue to work with, coaching people. So coaching is to assist someone to unlock their personal potential. Coaching is very different from mentoring, counseling, therapy, because NLP at the end of the day is solution orientated. It's not interested in why you have a problem. It's interested in how you can transform to be your potential. I made this slide. It took me hours. It was like, ooh. Typically, coaching is short-term. It's typically focused on, why did I attract that? What can I do differently? What can I do to create strategies of success? Whereas therapy tends to be looking at, why they did that, how did I respond? It's a different kind of framework. Coaching will explore the course of action, whereas therapy explores the way to manage the emotion. Coaching will tend to be the responsibility on the client. Therapy and counseling tends to be the responsibility on the therapist. all overlap to help the client achieve their goals, to move them forward, to introduce new skills, but there's a different framework. Coaching will work absolutely 100% of the time for those who are 100% ready, willing, and able. So it may be uncomfortable, but the change is absolutely worth it. That simple act of asking a question is such a huge, beautiful way to open up the gateway of change. So just that question, how you ask the question, just creates the possibility of healing and transformation. And lastly, one of the questions that I ask my NLP students is, what qualities do you want your coach to have? We went through going around the room recently to find out what stands out to NLP students right at the beginning of their journey. Look at that rainbow. But yeah, what qualities do you want your coach to have? Think about that, because what you're wanting from a coach is likely going to be your business model. It's likely going to be the person that you want to become. So here we've got a list here of wanting the coach to be approachable, wanting somebody who sees my potential, somebody who calls me out on my nonsense and my BS, somebody who has evidence of why they do what they do. Somebody who will be able to reflect back the problem so the client feels heard. And yes, a coach who can create success and the outcomes and have that certainty in them so that can be transformed over to the client. I would take the time to have a think about what you would want in a coach so that you know what you're working towards. That concludes this video on the housekeeping and what you can expect from our training together. It's a really, really fun journey, and I'm so honored and excited to be here with you on this path. All I can say is, like, how can this get any better? And let's get started. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.